Guardian is one of the most popular SCP-001 proposals, and for good reason. This entity is massive, it wields a fiery sword, and it can destroy almost anything. But where does the Gate Guardian originate from, and what is it protecting? In this video, we explore the Gate Guardian's origin. To begin with, let's quickly remind ourselves of his description. The Gate Guardian is a 1,000-foot tall humanoid located near the intersection of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. This entity has a number of luminous, wing-like appendages emerging from its body, and it is holding a sword that emits super hot flames. But most notably, SCP-001 seems to be protecting a gate of immense proportions. Also, photographs have revealed that behind the gate, a pastoral grove can be seen, which contains numerous other entities of the same appearance and composition as SCP-001. And finally, an apple tree as well as several fruit trees of unknown composition can be seen in the middle of the garden. Furthermore, the Gate Guardian is very effective at protecting, because anything that enters within 1 kilometer is immediately struck by his sword and obliterated from existence. And to top things off, every time the Foundation has tried to terminate him, SCP-001 has retaliated in a much more destructive way. For example, on one occasion, the agency fired a missile at his location, but the projectile was obliterated, and the launch site where the missile was fired from was also destroyed. And finally, when the Foundation tried to eliminate SCP-001 with an intercontinental ballistic missile, the Gate Guardian retaliated, causing a massive earthquake and tsunami. So as we see, this entity is ridiculously powerful, and the nickname the Gate Guardian is quite appropriate because 001 seems to be protecting some sort of gate. But who created the Guardian, and what exactly is he protecting? Well, if we look closer, we notice quite a few words in the description which relate to religion. For example, it is stated that all personnel who are responsible for the Gate Guardian's containment need to be in good relations with the Abrahamic faiths. And if we research these faiths, we find a good candidate for the Gate Guardian's identity right away. In Christian tradition, Uriel is one of the 7 archangels that God created. He is the archangel of earth and is said to stand at the gate of Eden with a fiery sword. And of course, the Garden of Eden is the place where Adam and Eve lived before they ate the forbidden fruit. And finally, in the Bible, this fruit was also planted in the middle of the garden. So as we see, the Gate Guardian's description seems to match that of Uriel quite well. Both SCP-001 and Uriel are standing in front of a gate. Both of them are holding fiery swords, and both are protecting a garden which contains a fruit tree. Also, in the Bible, it is stated that the Garden of Eden is located near the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, something which also matches the location of the Guardian's gate. So, is the Gate Guardian Uriel? Well, it seems very likely, but if we read another document, we find contradicting information, because in SCP-682's termination log, the reptile was tested with the Guardian, and the results were surprising. Upon entry, 682 is struck by the Guardian's sword, but it survives, albeit heavily injured. SCP-682 then begins crawling towards the Guardian, while saying,
"Is this meant to be the garden? This is not the garden. The garden is far west of here."
SCP-001 then strikes the reptile once again, but 682 survives once more. The reptile then says,
"Die, you command me to die. Oh, wouldn't we all like that? But this is my curse for suggesting the fruit."
The Gate Guardian strikes once more, but SCP-682 persists and says,
"This is not the garden, and you are not Uriel, pretender."
And finally, SCP-001 strikes the reptile a final time, and 682 falls unconscious. And right after, personnel enter the 1 kilometer boundary and reportedly hear the words "remove," which makes them collect 682's body. So as we see, despite all the similarities we discovered, SCP-682 claims that the Guardian isn't Uriel. Instead, the reptile calls him a pretender and and says that the real garden is located to the west. However, it is entirely possible that SCP-682 was trying to mock the Gate Guardian. After all, the reptile laughed and spat at 001. Not to mention that in the Bible, we find even more evidence. God drove out Adam, and at the east of the garden he placed the cherubim and a sword, flaming and turning to guard the way of the tree of life. And just for context, the word cherubim refers to a winged angel that serves God and usually protects something important. So even if SCP-682 was telling the truth and the garden really is located to the west, then this isn't an issue, because as we saw, God placed an angel to the east of the garden. And finally, the word cherubim is plural, and as we saw in the Gate Guardian's description, it is stated that similar entities could be seen behind the gate. As such, despite of SCP-682's claim, all the evidence suggests that the Guardian really is Uriel. Alright, this is very interesting on its own, but what does it have to do with the Gate Guardian's origin? Well, it tells us that SCP-001 is protecting the Tree of Knowledge, and that the Guardian is an angel, a creation of God. But of course, there are many godlike creatures in the Foundation, so how can we tell which one created the Guardian? Well, in order to find out, we will have to read another document. The gate opens as an SCP tale, which showcases what SCP-001's XK class event will look like. The tale begins with an entity by the name of Yahweh, which awakens at Site 17. This entity then teleports to Site 0, the site where the Gate Guardian is located. The personnel at the site, some of which are asleep, leap to their feet. Even an O5 member, who is also present, staggers to his feet. Yahweh then says the time has come, and he teleports to the gate. The Gate Guardian bows in front of him and lowers its burning sword. Uriel, says Yahweh, it is time. Open the gate. Lead my armies across the earth.
I hear and obey, my Lord and my God.
The gate begins to creak open, and behind it is an army of angels, thousands of bright creatures, burning with pure light. They raise their white swords, singing a chant of war, and the rustling of countless wings fills the air. Yahweh then appears to the remaining members of the O5 Council, all at once, in 13 different locations. And all of the O5 members, even the non-believers, who think of him as nothing more than a reality bender with a god complex. Soon I will call the 4 horsemen. Once the last judgment has been unsealed, then shall the great and terrible day of the Lord come, and then all will have paradise. And finally, a bit later in this tale, Yahweh is identified as SCP-343, and just for context, in the Old Testament, the word Yahweh refers to God himself. So as we see, according to this tale, 682 was mocking the Guardian, because SCP-001 really is Uriel, and of course, being an archangel, the Gate Guardian was created by the omnipotent God of the Foundation, namely SCP-343.
Which is the part of the Old Testament that details God creating the world and humanity during a particularly busy week, then you might just be already familiar with SCP-001, or at least one of the anomalies that's been proposed for the title of SCP-001. Because of course, SCP-001 doesn't refer to a single creature, object, or entity, but rather a collection of various anomalies contained by the SCP Foundation. Anomalies sharing the name SCP-001 include the infamous Scarlet King, a powerful eldritch being intent on ending all of creation that is thought by Foundation researchers to be one of the most dangerous beings in this and any other universe. But the Scarlet King isn't the only incredibly powerful being categorized as SCP-001. In fact, there are plenty of other anomalies with similar levels of destructive power. And one such being is a creature codenamed the Gate Guardian. Standing at well over 1,000 feet tall, the Gate Guardian is impossible to be fully contained by any means that the Foundation possesses. The anomaly itself, despite its colossal size, is humanoid in its shape, sporting wings that protrude from its back. While it usually has 4 of these, SCP-001 has historically been seen to have any number of wings between 2 and 108, sprouting from various places over its body, including its shoulders, ankles, wrists, and even its temples. This gigantic guardian also carries its own weapon, referred to as SCP-001-2. This weapon resembles an enormous knife or sword, capable of emitting plumes of flame. According to tests conducted by the Foundation, the temperature of the flames produced by SCP-001 rival that of our very own Sun. For reference, the Sun has a core temperature of over 27 million degrees Fahrenheit and 5,778 Kelvin at its surface, or almost 10,000 degrees Fahrenheit. You would expect a flaming sword that burns hotter than the Sun to cause a considerable amount of damage, even if it wasn't in use, but the flames emitted by the weapon leave no lasting damage on the surrounding environment. It is capable, though, of annihilating anything that strays too close to SCP-001, burning them so intensely that their atoms literally separate, breaking potential attackers apart on a molecular level. Much as its codename suggests, the Gate Guardian stands solemnly at the threshold of some form of dimensional gateway, which is equally tall as SCP-001 itself. Behind the Guardian is a lush grove, abundant with fruit trees of astronomical size, as well as other beings that share a similar appearance to SCP-001. This grove is thought to be the Garden of Eden, the paradise that God created and that was inhabited by Adam and Eve, the first 2 humans in existence, according to the book of Genesis. As the tale goes, the pair were created by God himself and permitted to live in the Garden of Eden as long as they followed a single rule. Adam and Eve were instructed not to eat any of the fruit that grew from certain trees that God had specified. Within view just behind the Gate Guardian are 2 immense trees, one bearing apples and the other bearing different fruit of an unknown type. The one that looks like an apple tree is believed, even by some in the Foundation, to be the biblical tree of knowledge that Eve was convinced to pick a fateful apple from after an encounter with a snake. The other, the one with unidentifiable fruit, is thought to be the tree of life. However, this is all speculation, since it is currently impossible to venture through this gateway and verify if the realm beyond is truly the Bible's own Garden of Eden. This is largely because anything that breaches a kilometer-wide radius of SCP-001 is instantly vaporized. The Gate Guardian attacks with imperceptible speed, using its flaming sword to smite any person that gets too close. The Guardian actually moves so fast that it can hardly be seen with the naked eye. It appears to always remain in its solemn, dutiful stance with its weapon drawn and head bowed, only shifting for a fraction of a nanosecond to attack. Ranged attacks against the Guardian are just as ineffective, with all projectiles fired at SCP-001 reduced to atoms before they can do any harm. Even if said projectile happens to be a nuclear weapon, the Gate Guardian will be able to subatomically vaporize both the projectile itself as well as the person who sent it, regardless of how far away they are, all while not appearing to lift a finger. During an experiment involving SCP-001 on December 26, 2004, an SCP Foundation nuclear submarine called Nautilus launched a series of multi-warhead intercontinental ballistic missiles at the Gate Guardian. The retaliation from the Guardian resulted not only in the deaths of approximately 35,000 innocent civilians, but the blast is also believed by some to have inadvertently caused the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami. The severity of this incident came dangerously close to revealing the Foundation's existence to the world, resulting in them rapidly deploying any means necessary to erase any trace of the 35,000 victims' families, friends, and other related individuals. In order to avoid questioning, the SCP Foundation administered amnestics on an almost worldwide scale, and the O5 Council banned any further tests on SCP-001 that involved nuclear weapons. In what was hoped by the Foundation to be a test with lower stakes, they sent an expendable D-Class personnel towards SCP-001. The D-Class approached the area where the Gate Guardian is located, and as soon as they saw it, they could hear a very clear command in their mind: leave. The D-Class personnel reacted exactly the same way you or I would. They promptly turned and started to walk away. They didn't need a 1,000-foot-tall entity with a flaming sword to tell them twice. The researchers running the experiment were not swayed by the request and ordered the D-Class to continue moving towards SCP-001. When the D-Class continued to ignore their commands, they were terminated, as is standard policy when dealing with an insubordinate member of D-Class. SCP-001 appeared not to like this for some reason though, and the researcher site as well as the researchers themselves were immediately obliterated by an unknown force, though it's a pretty safe guess that a certain flaming weapon was responsible. This candidate for SCP-001 may be one of, if not the most powerful being that the SCP Foundation has ever encountered, and according to its entry in the SCP-001 file, the Guardian is even responsible for the creation of the Foundation itself. If the file is to be believed, the administrator of the SCP Foundation one day heard a word echoing through his head: prepare. This one-word instruction led him to starting the SCP Foundation, containing countless dangerous anomalies and entities in preparation for an uncertain future. In all that time, since the very beginning of the Foundation, the Gate Guardian has remained standing at its post. While it is not aggressive nor openly hostile towards humanity, the Gate Guardian doesn't seem to care much for us either, at least as individuals. It rarely interacts with human beings when left unprovoked. And venturing too close to the Guardian, however, is not an automatic death sentence. The Guardian first communicates with any living being approaching it via telepathic message, instructing them to either leave or forget. If whomever has stepped too close to SCP-001 complies with the instructions, they'll be able to freely leave the area, while simultaneously forgetting every detail of the Gate Guardian's existence. Ignore these warnings though, and SCP-001 has no qualms about completely eliminating you from reality. Given its enormous destructive potential, it is no wonder that the Foundation has tried to use the Gate Guardian to eliminate other dangerous SCPs, each with varying results. The Foundation at one time even attempted to use the Gate Guardian to destroy the infamously indestructible SCP-682, better known by the appropriate name of the hard-to-destroy reptile. Due to the malicious contempt SCP-682 holds for human beings and all other forms of life, it is perhaps one of the most dangerous anomalies the SCP Foundation has in containment. SCP-682 is also one of the few creatures the Foundation actively wants to terminate, a task made that much harder given that 682 can regenerate its entire form from as little as a single cell. The Gate Guardian had already shown time and time again that it was capable of massive destruction, and researchers working for the Foundation hope to harness that power to rid the world of SCP-682 for good. 682 was placed on an unmanned vehicle and carried to within 1 kilometer of the Gate Guardian. The Guardian attacked the vehicle, seriously wounding but not killing 682. It seemed even the mighty SCP-001 couldn't kill the hard-to-destroy reptile. While the researchers were disappointed with this result, it is worth noting that 682 made a very interesting comment to the Guardian. 682 mentioned that the Gate Guardian is not Uriel, but a pretender. Uriel is the archangel that some religious texts describe as the Guardian standing at the Gate of Eden with a fiery sword. So does this mean that 682 knows that the Gate Guardian is not actually an angel? Or that the location it is guarding isn't the Garden of Eden at all? Any truth or meaning behind these comments has, as of yet, been undetermined by the SCP Foundation. A later experiment involved both SCP-001 and SCP-073, the anomaly otherwise known as Cain. Cain is a male humanoid of possible Arabic descent whose arms, legs, spine, and shoulders are replaced in an almost cyborg-like fashion with beryllium bronze. Much like the Gate Guardian, SCP-073 may also be the same as the one mentioned in the Bible's book of Genesis, who, according to the biblical story, murdered his own brother Abel out of spite. As punishment for his actions, Cain was cursed to eternally suffer for his wrongdoing. In the case of SCP-073, any damage inflicted on him is deflected back to the attacker, but Cain is made to feel the pain of the attack. Any plants or plant-based matter withers and rots in his presence, and he is cursed with a perfect memory, keeping him forever haunted by his murder of Abel. When Cain was brought before the Gate Guardian, an unknown incident occurred. The Foundation's records are heavily expunged, but we do know that somehow Cain's usual ability to deflect incoming damage back at his attacker had no effect on SCP-001. The encounter left SCP-073 unconscious and even permanently blinded nearby research personnel. It was as a direct result of this incident that the O5 Council demanded that no further experiments of any kind were to be conducted on SCP-001, with the administrator even filing an executive order that no SCPs be exposed to the Guardian, and that SCP-001 was to never be used for the attempted termination of other SCPs. Of course, perhaps it wasn't just the mistakes of the past that made the Council decide that SCP-001 was best left alone. At some point, an erratic transmission was received from Site-0 by Foundation personnel, detailing an XK-class end-of-the-world scenario. In the transmission, the sender, believed to be another member of the SCP Foundation, described an event during which the Gate Guardian finally left its post, stepping away from the entrance to the Garden of Eden. SCP-001 has left its location, the sender wrote. The gate is open. They are riding forth. Oh God, it's so beautiful. The transmission then goes on to repeat various phrases including, "The Lord shall reign forever," and "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." What can be inferred from the rambling transmission is that the event being described is the end of the world. Some believe that once God deems it time, his angelic armies will lay waste to the earth in order to remake it as a paradise. When this occurs, SCP-001, the Gate Guardian, will open the gate he stands in front of, allowing the other beings like it to emerge into our world, ready to cleanse it.
General notice. All files concerning the nature of SCP-001, including the decoys/decoys, are protected by a memetic kill agent designed to immediately cause cardiac arrest in any non-authorized personnel attempting to access the file. Revealing the true nature of SCP-001 to the general public is cause for execution. Warning. Any non-authorized personnel accessing this file will be immediately terminated through a memetic kill agent. You have been warned. Continued life signs confirmed. Removing safety interlocks. Item. SCP-001. Object Class Euclid/Keter. Description. SCP-001 is a humanoid entity approximately several hundred cubits in height or 320 meters, located in an undisclosed location near the intersection of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. The following features are known about the entity. A number of luminous wing-like appendages emerging from the shoulders, back, temples, ankles, and wrists of the entity. Although an accurate count has never been established, most observers place the number of wings at anywhere from 2 through 108, with the mean number being 4. A weapon, possibly a knife or a sword, classed SCP-001-2. Any entity that approaches within 1 kilometer of SCP-001 is immediately struck by the weapon and obliterated from existence. Any and all hostile action taken towards SCP-001 have resulted in the annihilation of the attacker, regardless of range. SCP-001 appears to be standing with its head bowed in a gesture of supplication, with SCP-001-2 held in both hands point down in front of it. Human beings exposed to SCP-001 report hearing a voice in their heads, giving them a directive which the subject reports cannot be disobeyed. The most common directive is forget, which will result in the subject walking away from SCP-001 with no memory of having encountered it. On rare occasions, however, other directives have been given. The most famous of these is the one given to the founder. Prepare. This is the organization now known as the SCP Foundation. Observers have reported that SCP-001 appears to be standing in front of a gate of immense proportions. Long-range photographs have occasionally detected what appears to be a pastoral grove within, containing numerous other entities of the same composition of SCP-001, as well as several fruit trees of unknown composition. Of particular note are 2 fruit trees of immense proportion near what appears to be the center of the grove. One, it is noted, appears to be an ordinary apple tree. although the other bears a fruit unknown on Earth, described as the tree of the fruit of life. It is a avowed belief of the founder that the gate which SCP-001 guards may be the gate to data recovered. Administrator clearance accepted. The Garden of Eden, based on correlations with ancient Babylonian texts and the Dead Sea Scrolls, in which case one can deduce that the entity known as SCP-001 may be data recovered. Administrator clearance accepted. Uriel, the Angel of Repentance, the angel tasked by God to protect the Garden of Eden, and the angel who buried Adam and Abel in the garden. Special containment procedures. Because of the nature of SCP-001, no containment procedures are necessary. 24/7 monitoring of SCP-001 is to take place from a safe 10 km plus distance from the determined location, Site 0. The location of Site 0 is known only to the current SCP Administrator and the single Overseer level agent of Abrahamic Faith, 05-14, assigned to monitor SCP-001 from Site 0. Said agent is authorized to take any action necessary should SCP-001 become inactive, and is required to immediately alert the Administrator and all other Overseer level agents should SCP-001 show any change in behavior, as this may constitute the beginning of a Patmos XK class end of the world scenario. Should SCP become active in any way, personnel are required to immediately consult the Patmos series of emergency orders. Decoding algorithms for emergency order Patmos are to be maintained on site at Site 0 in the possession of the designated observer and to be transmitted to the SCP Foundation offices only in the event of SCP-001 becoming active. In case of a premillennial rapture scenario, all vital personnel are to designate a secondary operative of non-Abrahamic faith. Said secondary operative is to be informed of the location of the primary designate, copy of emergency procedure Patmos and mimetic kill agent inoculant, and is to be kept on ready status to take over the primary duties as necessary. Addendum 001-A Experimentation regarding SCP-001-2's effective kill range. Experiment A. One Class D personnel instructed to approach SCP-001 as closely as possible on foot. Result. Upon making visual contact with SCP-001, the subject is ordered to leave. Subject immediately turns away from the entity and walks away. Despite repeated orders to continue the experiment, Class D personnel refuses to obey and is terminated. Upon termination of Class D personnel, all research staff involved are immediately obliterated by an unknown force, presumably SCP-001-2. Experiment B. One remote-operated research robot guided to approach SCP-001 from the ground. Upon approaching within 1 kilometer of SCP-001, research robot is obliterated, presumably by SCP-001-2. All further attempts at remote reconnaissance have the same result. Experiment C. 100 pre-programmed research drones instructed to approach SCP-001 from multiple angles simultaneously. Coordination is successful, and all 100 drones cross the 1 kilometer mark simultaneously. However, all 100 are simultaneously obliterated by SCP-001-2. Designated observer at Site 0 reports that SCP-001-2 appeared to strike in all directions at once. SCP-001 did not deviate from its stance while this took place. Experiment D. Wire-guided missile fired from a distance of 3 kilometers. SCP-001-2 obliterates weapon upon crossing the 1 kilometer mark, simultaneously obliterating the launch site and killing all personnel. Experiment E. Multi-warhead intercontinental ballistic missile fired from SCP nuclear submarine Nautilus. Data redacted. Data recovered. Administrator clearance accepted. Experiment E. Multi-warhead intercontinental ballistic missile, multi-warhead thermonuclear, fired from SCP nuclear submarine Nautilus. SCP-001 is seen to raise its head from its stance of supplication, previously unseen behavior. Administrator at 0514 order an immediate abort mission. Upon crossing the 1 kilometer boundary, the missile is struck by SCP-001-2 and consequently detonates. Approximately 1 hour later, long-range surveillance can see through the smoke and shows SCP-001 still in the same position. However, its wings appear to be wrapped around its body. It is assumed this is to protect it from the heat or the radiation, though this is not known. SCP-001 then enters what can only be described as a rage state. SCP-001 extends its wings to a previous position and then raises and points SCP-001-2 towards the direction of the SCP submarine Nautilus, some 65 miles away, and out of SCP-001's line of sight. At this moment, all remaining thermonuclear warheads on board the SCP submarine Nautilus detonated. The Nautilus, 4 SCP aircraft carriers, 2 dozen SCP escort vessels, several merchant vessels, and a luxury yacht were obliterated in the subsequent blast. The death toll is estimated at 35,000. This incident represented one of the biggest uses of amnestics and Foundation influence. The entire surrounding ocean for a distance of 30 miles in all directions was restricted. Local news outlet was screened and monitored for no mention of this experiment. The families of the merchant vessels and yacht were terminated to avoid questioning. Amnestics were added to the water supply and released via chemtrails over all countries within a 100-mile radius. By executive order of the Administrator and Override Council, no nuclear weaponry is ever to be used against SCP-001. Experiment F. SCP-076, Able, and Task Force Omega-7 instructed to approach SCP-001 on foot. SCP-076, Able, refuses to carry out the mission, despite not being informed of the mission's nature. Upon being asked why, SCP-076 replies, "No. Just no." Experiment G. SCP-073, Kane. Due to the result of Experiment F, SCP-073 was not informed of his destination until arriving at Site 0. SCP-073 approached the site on foot. Upon seeing SCP-001, SCP-073 became distressed and asked to abort. SCP-073 was ordered to continue. At this point, the symbol on SCP-073's forehead became Administrator Clearance Accepted. Data recovered. At this point, the symbol on SCP-073's forehead became unrecognizable. SCP-073's head appeared to split apart, and an incredible bright light seemed to be coming from it, resulting in 3 security personnel going blind. Experiment was terminated due to the effect this had on SCP-073. SCP-073 began begging SCP-001 to stop, stating, "Please, my lord. Please, Uriel. I do not seek to enter the garden. Forgive me, my lord. Please, forgive me." 073 was restrained in a Class 5 containment unit and immediately evacuated. Upon crossing 2 kilometers from SCP-001, SCP-073 lost consciousness. See Addendum 001-AA. Addendum 001-AA. By executive order of the Administrator, no further experiments are to be carried out regarding SCP-001. No further SCPs are to be exposed to SCP-001. SCP-001 is not to be used to dispose of dangerous SCPs. Addendum. The following errant transmission was received by Foundation personnel. SCP-001 has left its location. The gate is open. They are riding forth. Oh god, it's so beautiful. Because of this event's confluence with the recent breach of SCP-995, the opening of SCP-616, and the activation of SCP-098, the Foundation is required to immediately begin preparations for an XK-class end-of-the-world scenario. SCP-076 and SCP-073, Kane and Abel, are to be secured immediately. All personnel are to unlock and decode Emergency Order Patmos Omega and follow all orders within. Site 19 is to be secured, and all non-essential SCPs and personnel terminated and or destroyed. Kane and Abel, my 2 sons, I am coming. Behold, I stand at the gate and knock, and if any just follow. and is a new heaven and a new earth and the fruit of. Upon contacting Site 0, 05-14 responded that no such message had been sent from his location and that SCP-001 remained inert. The transmission was initially determined to be a hoax. However, close examination of the transmission reveals a timestamp dated years in the future. It is theorized that data expunged. Administrator clearance accepted. Data recovered. It is theorized that the gate to the Garden of Eden exists across all universes and versions of Earth. In one of those universes, set years in the future, an XK-class end-of-the-world scenario took place, and Site 0 from that reality broadcast the distress call. The distress call, by unknown means, seems to have travelled through the gate to our own reality.